Illegal mining.
Several domestic fires have also been recorded this year, with the latest claiming the life.
A lot later, the Ghana Health Service commences cholera vaccination exercise targeting 300,000 people aged 1 year and above in the Greater Accra region. It's a day where love is given and shared. Hello there, welcome to the Valentine's Day edition of News Central. I am Mawina Igbeta. The bulletin starts right now. Now we're starting on the fight against illegal mining, because this afternoon the Obuasi Circuit Court has remanded 8 miners for alleged involvement in illegal mining at Adasi. The accused were charged with conspiracy to commit crime, to wit, illegal mining and mining to destroy lands and river bodies. Government, in a renewed fight against galamsey, has begun clamping down on illegal miners causing destruction to water bodies and forest reserves. Ibrahim Abubakar is following up on this development for us in the Ashanti region, one of the areas where illegal mining continues to ravage forests and lands. He's joined us via Zoom right now. Let's talk to Ibrahim on what we know. Ibrahim, what transpired in court this morning?
Well, basically, these suspects, 8 who were arrested at one of the mining sites, like you said, at Adasi, within the Obuasi East, Obuasi West District, were brought before the Obuasi Circuit Court today. Their plea today was not taken, but all 8, as I speak, have been remanded in police custody to reappear in 2 weeks' time. Now,
right. Does appear a connection may have been severed with Ibrahim just briefly. He was seeking to get into the details. Ibrahim, you're back. Get into the details for us, please. Ibrahim, you were seeking to explain into full details what really happened in court following the arrest and subsequent arraigning of the 8.
Well, so the judge clearly was not even happy with the devastation or the destruction on the mining site. So for now, as the police still continue with their investigation, they have decided to remand these suspects in custody. Now, the prosecutor gave that assurance to them that they are also trying to track down the owners of the site and financiers behind it, because over the years that has been the norm, going to illegal mining sites to arrest the workers, and these are just mere workers. You arrest them, the next day or the next minute you find a new set of workers there. So this time around, the police or the prosecutors want to go further and make sure they track down the financier and owners of the site so that they will be part of the prosecution. Now, it was a joint special operation between the police and the BNI officials who went there and were clamping down on illegal miners. And fortunately, they were able to arrest this. As I speak to you, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Amabua, is also in town visiting some mining sites to ascertain the level of destruction, do engagement with chief and elders of the communities to find a lasting solution of addressing this issue, because the moment you leave these stakeholders out, it means you will be losing the fight against it, because it happens in the community and they are the only people who can decide to prevent it from happening if they so wish. After the court, we spoke with the legal counsel for the complainant, because it was the chief of Adasi who lodged that complaint and said illegal miners have invaded their area and they were causing distraction. So the legal counsel for the complainant, lawyer Osea Komia, spoke to us briefly after the court sitting. let's listen to what he has been saying.
Right.
Galamsey is a threat to the country, so steps like this will serve as deterrent to other illegal miners. The prosecutors also assured us of tracking down the site owners or financiers to also face the law.
Now, by 2 weeks' time,
this should be a warning to all persons involved in illegal mining that the law will deal with you if arrested.
Majority said the SC should be a sign and a warning. Say, what now you got? I'm saying, no, it's Yamra. Now,
So that's a legal counsel. What's happened to the Adase Township? This arrest has parried off the remainder of the illegal miners, or mining and its illegal activities is still continuing there. Just briefly.
For now, every activity has halted. Almost all the sites, you go there, you don't find anyone because of the presence of the police around, and they have seen that some of their colleagues have been arrested. And this is something the Adase chief believes that if it's replicated in all the mining communities, it will help. Like I said, if you find a chief who is against the mining or against illegal mining in his town, and he get the support of his people, these unwarranted activities wouldn't be happening. So I'm sure that's why the minister himself is trying to engage with the chiefs and make sure that government fight against illegal mining will be successful this time around.
That you could speak to us on this. And the subject of galamsey is one that we know is not going to go away anytime soon, because we know that the CEO of the EPA has been going hard, visiting some of the affected river bodies. The National House of Chiefs have been weighing into the conversation. We'll hear from them shortly, but let's take you outside of the country, because President Mahama has been speaking in Germany, where he says that in the face of the Trump administration's closure of America's aid agency, USAID, the President, John Dramani Mahama, has intimated that Ghana stands a chance of increasing its food production in response to the suspension of USAID. Ghana is facing a significant revenue shortfall of some $156 million. Now, speaking at a roundtable meeting as part of the Munich Security Conference, President Mahama said Ghana will learn to be more self-reliant in the face of actions of the Trump administration.
That the US is doing what it's doing. What is everyone else going to need to do now?
Well, self-reliance is not only at the national level, but on the continental level. And there's good news coming out of Africa, like she said. Most countries have ratified the protocol on continental free trade in Africa. And that trade is beginning to grow steadily. Of course, there are obstacles, because our trade channels have been the colonial trade channels between us and Europe and not amongst ourselves. So one of the things we need to deal with first is how we develop the infrastructure to be able to exchange goods amongst ourselves. Already, most countries are allowing free movement of people. And so if we have free movement of goods and services across the continent, I think that it will fill a huge gap in South-South trade, and that will benefit all our countries.
And do you think that the actions of the Trump administration will explanation to do this? Will it finally actually happen, the African Free Trade Area?
Definitely it will. Definitely we will learn to be more self-reliant as a continent and to trade more amongst ourselves, because there's a lot of room there for expanding trade. But I was just reading, U.S. farmers are beginning to complain because USAID was the biggest mopper of excess food for food aid to Africa. And USAID is not doing the auctions that mops up the excess US food. And so the US farmers are complaining. But it's an opportunity for Africa to increase food production. And so if that aid stops coming, we would do the investments that are necessary to make our farmers more productive so that we can establish food security in Africa instead of waiting for those US aid handouts to come.
Right, and you're so live here on News Central. We're taking you to Parliament, where the minority leader just finished making a statement on the floor of the House in relation to that directive by the Chief of Staff asking all heads of civil society or civil service, I should say, to revoke the appointment of persons recruited into any state institution after December 7. The majority leader, Mahama Ayariga, has taken his turn. Let's catch a listen to what he's saying and whether or not there's a direct response to what the minority leader has been saying.
I served as a member of the transition team. And I recall that during that period, there was a mad rush to employ people. Even after a party had lost an election and was on its way out, after December 7th, we saw ministers in a hurry to have people interviewed and taken through the processes so that they could be officially served with employment letters. And at the transition team meetings, joint meetings, we raised issues. We told our counterparts who were outgoing ministers that that practice must stop because a number of issues are implicated. One, we all know that you must have fiscal space before you take decisions to employ people. You are leaving. We are coming in. We haven't told you that the public money that is available, we want to commit it to paying workers. So you cannot clock the fiscal space and then leave us with problems that we cannot deal with. So we pleaded with them to hold on with the recruitments. And at the meetings, they told us that so long as they had gotten financial clearance during the year, they will proceed with the recruitment. And we said that is wrong. Once you haven't done the recruitment, hold on. When we come in, we'll assess the situation and see whether we have fiscal space to do recruitments or not. And they insisted on recruiting and insisted that so long as they were in office until January 7th, they were the validly established government of the Republic of Ghana and they will do whatever pleases them. And so they were going to recruit. I was in the meetings. Minutes of the meetings exist. I can point to specific outgoing ministers who made those statements. So if you engage in such recklessness and you go and you know that you are leaving office, and you decide to load the public sector with workers, that will make it difficult for the incoming government. What do you expect? What do you expect? What do you expect? So, Mr. Speaker, I will not. Look, I made those statements at the transition team meetings, and I'm repeating those statements here, that it is reckless for you to leave, for you to know that you are leaving office, but you decide to load the public sector with workers so that the incoming government will come and inherit such workers, and then we'll be struggling with how to pay them. Mr. Speaker, look, I chaired about 8 ministries, the transitions. I saw an agency, I won't mention the name, but if you push me, I'll mention the name. Mr. Speaker, when we were leaving office in 2017 January, that agency had about 120 workers with a certain asset to manage. At the transition, we asked them today, how many workers are in that agency? Mr. Speaker, there were over 1,000 workers. Mr. Speaker, we asked them, have you added additional assets for them to manage? No. So assets that we could use 110 workers to manage. You have come and you have loaded that same organization with over 1,000 workers. 1,000 workers. It's not a question of whether or not they are not Ghanaians. It is about the proper management of the state. That is why the NDC government, that is why the NDC as a party realized that this country should not be run with over 180 ministers. That is why we have reduced the number of ministers to 60. Because we want this country to be properly managed with the labor force that is needed to manage it. And so if you, at the time that we're cautioning you during transition, to be circumspect with your recruitment exercise, and you said you will not do it, what makes you think that today will allow those recruitments to stay? I think that what the Chief of Staff has done is proper. It is consistent with good governance, and we will review the recruitments that took place, and we will reverse them as indicated. This house, I was in this house when the Minister for Interior came and said he was going to recruit people into the security agencies. During the transition meetings, we cautioned him, please do not proceed with the recruitment. In this house, we said, even if you have to recruit, go through the proper advertisements and give every young person an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, if we go and we want to interrogate a lot of the recruitments that took place, you will realize clearly that those recruitments amounted to abuse of discretion. There was no proper advertisement. There were no proper advertisements. People sat down and then just agreed among themselves, brought together family members, brought together foot soldiers, and then they went and recruited them. That was what happened. How many did you advertise? How many did you advertise? How many did you give opportunity to every Ghanaian in order to apply and be taken through the proper processes? Mr. Speaker, we know what happened in this country. And that is why Ghanaians voted overwhelmingly for the NDC. Because what happened was wrong. And Ghanaians expect us to correct what is wrong. What was wrong yesterday is wrong today. But what you did yesterday, which is wrong, must be corrected today.
And that's the majority leader who's still making submissions on the floor with respect to the arguments. Let's take you back there right now.
This side of we stand by it. And we will push it and make sure that fairness exists in the public sector. When it comes to recruitment under our government, I want to assure you that we will also ensure that there is fairness, that there is equity, that we are even-handed in doing whatever we do, that every Ghanaian young person is given a fair opportunity, an opportunity that they were not given in the past. We will give every young Ghanaian the opportunity because, as we promised, we are resetting this country, and the resetting begins now. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
And arguments, unfortunately, we missed the initial arguments by the minority leader, Alexander Fenyo-Markin, and then we've heard from the majority leader, Nahama Ayariga, who's been responding and stating clearly that they will insist on resetting this country and that the directive from the Chief of Staff is one in the right direction. But let's take you to other sectors of the Ghanaian economy, where 8 regions have been selected to benefit from phase 1 of government irrigation for wealth creation initiative for the next 1 year. The initiative, according to the sector minister, Eric Opoku, is aimed at increasing food production to achieve food security.
Volta, Uti, Central, Northeast, Northern, Savannah, Upper West, and Upper East regions are the regions earmarked for the first phase of the irrigation for wealth creation in 1 year. The regional ministers will lead the initiative, which is in line with government's Agric for Economic Transformation agenda. The nature of irrigation facility expected to take place will, however, be determined after a field visit by the experts, while each region has an expected land size needed for the project, which seeks to increase food production in the country. The Food and Agric Minister, Eric Opoku, at a meeting with some selected regional ministers to make the announcement, noted that 10,000 hectares of land would be needed under the phase 1 of the project.
We want to wean ourselves from wind-fed agriculture to irrigation-based agriculture, where the farmers can farm throughout the year. And I've already given you the figures. That when you look at the agricultural endowments in our nation, we have an estimated irrigable land of 1.9 million hectares. And as we speak, from the records of the ministry, only 1.6% of the 1.9 million hectares is under irrigation.
That's the Agric Minister, Eric Opoku. And we know that the country possesses substantial irrigation potential with estimates of around land spanning 360,000 to 1.9 million hectares, but less than 3% of the country's cultivated land in the country is irrigated. Let's engage Dr. Charles Nyaba, the former executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. He's joined us. Let's get a bit more in terms of perspective. This new initiative being introduced by the Mahama government. Doc, I appreciate that we can speak to you. Over the last 8 years, Ghana has expanded the area under public irrigation scheme from 11,000 hectares in 2016 to 19,000 in 2024. This new move by the ministry, considering that there have been efforts in the past with the one village, one dam, how do you assess that it should be done?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Doc.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm currently in Tamale. I participated in the Harmattan School, organized by the 19th Harmattan School, organized by UDS. We had all the key stakeholders in the agriculture sector to digest and then come out with the solutions on areas that we think this government should tackle and the areas that they think that the previous government didn't do well, that it need to be reviewed or to be continued. And it was fantastic. I wish your team were there to cover that event. The communique is ready. I'll let them say it with you.
Sure.
I am bringing this up because in that program, it was literally accepted that irrigation is the way to go. If you look at the northern part of the country, we are endowed with various types of crop commodities, crops that we are even importing today, that we would have been able to produce enough for consumption, for our industries, and even for export. But because of lack of irrigation and then in the advent of climate change, all those crops are being faded out. Onions was one example. In every 2 weeks, we import onions worth $2 million, simply because our irrigation facilities are not working. Tomatoes, we import 7,000 tons of tomatoes from Burkina Faso. I can mention a lot more. And you also remember, in 2024, between the period of June to July, the 5 northern regions, the Oti and Bono East region, experienced extended drought. And then most farmers even lose more than 60% of their farms. If we were having irrigation, this wouldn't have happened. Now we talked about what the previous government did in the area of irrigation in the past 8 years. Yes, efforts were made to actually expand irrigation infrastructure before they came to power. I think we all, back then, we supported them. We voted massively for them, and irrigation was one of the things. But we think that we're disappointed, even though the One Village, One Dam initiative was launched. Attempt to construct the portable multipurpose dam was launched, but it was wrongly done.
Right.
Wrong people were engaged to do the construction. communities, stakeholders like ourselves were never engaged to tell them the right way to go. Monies were put in place that never showed that any dam was constructed. In the case of Polgo multipurpose dam, where 11.9 million US dollars we put there, you go there and you won't see anything.
Right.
So the move by the Agri Minister to consult the 8 regional ministers for the irrigation is fantastic. But I would still want to hope with caution that who are the regional ministers? Regional ministers are party members who are appointed by the president. They liaise with the DCs to give information to the president on any decision that is taken. It's good. Party members are members of communities and they are members of district. But beyond that, in order to avoid what has happened in the past, I think that the consultations should go beyond just regional ministers. We have farmer associations, we have community members, we have independent groups, we have civil society organizations who are actually interested in seeing development of this country beyond political party interests. I'll urge Eric to actually broaden the consultation beyond just the regional minister, and we are all on board to support. Irrigation is the way to go. When you take India, for instance, about 50% of their farmlands are irrigated. And this is supporting smallholder farmers. They don't actually care about climate change. Egypt, 99% of Egypt land is irrigated. The farmlands are irrigated.
Outside of consultation will be the conversation of availability of funds. In previous times, following the attempt at the One Village, One Dam, which you've described largely as unsuccessful, we saw outside of the development of the irrigation space, no real commitment with respect to finances. Yet, when drought hit, government estimated responses to that drought over $5 million and the likes, and was actively searching for money to provide a response of some sort to the drought which hit us. Should we be seeing a bit more outside of the conversations in relation to consultation, to actual commitment with regards to financials, so we can see this through?
You see, the consultation will put on the table other options for funding for government to consider. For instance, you go to other places, they encourage public-private partnership, where you see the private sector engaging government to actually do some construction, use, and then hand over. So I'm saying this because if we want the consultation to be limited to only government appointees, without bringing on board key stakeholders who actually have interest beyond the tenure of a particular regime, we are going to end up with what we have experienced in the past.
Right.
But when you bring in other partners, other independent partners who are actually more concerned about community development and the development of this nation, they will give you objective views of things that government need to consider in taking the decision to do any form of investment. That's what I said. If we were in the yesterday's conversation that was held in the University of Development Studies, we saw a diverse group of people, including the former Chief Justice Gloria Akufu and even Ibn Chambers. All these people gave a very independent, insightful sense that they think that governments should consider. And if they engage all these stakeholders, they'll be able to provide them with a solution. Funding, yes, I agree. Because you cannot say you are going to invest in irrigation when you don't have dedicated funding. So I was actually, I was happy when government abrogated the contract, the contract from the contractor who was doing the Polgo multipurpose dam. But we were more interested in government telling us, if you are engaging a new contractor, what is now dedicated source of funding? Because if you just abrogate contract without telling us that this is the funding source, I don't think that is going to help us. And I don't think projects like the Polgo multipurpose that we can use IGF to be able to construct it.
Right.
We need more reliable funding that will ensure that this comes to fruition. So I agree, I support Eric Opoku's move, but I will caution that he should try to consult broadly, and then we are all available to support him.
Doc, I appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon. That's Dr. Charles Nyaba, as a former executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. We'll turn our attention to education just quickly because secondary schools in the country have been tasked to have farms to produce essential crops for feeding. The Agric Minister, Eric Opoku, during a media engagement, noted that multiple strategies are being adopted to ensure the country is food sufficient under the Feed Ghana program.
Don't have food to eat. How can they come to church and listen to the word of God? So we are urging the churches to also go into farming. Some of the churches are already into farming. Others can also join. We have what it takes to produce food to feed our country and the rest of West Africa. We can do it. Why are we importing food? At a bill of over $2 billion every year, and creating needless exchange rate challenges that is affecting businesses and worsening the unemployment situation of our country. This can be changed. We are also saying that all the district assemblies must also go into farming. We have spoken to our regional directors already. We have discussed the strategies with them this year. Within the next week, we want the assemblies to furnish us with information in relation to the land size that they have for this year's farming. And we are also going to plead with our chiefs that wherever you live in this country, if there is an undeveloped plot of land, just put something on it. Let's grow something. We want to ensure that food is available in sufficient quantities for everybody in this country. And from the little that I've given you, I think you all agree with me that it is doable. I didn't say it's possible, it's doable. Any other question? No, sir. Thank you very much.
So Food and Agric Minister Eric Opoku speaking to the media on plans to have all districts grow food, senior high schools grow food, universities grow food on the Feed Ghana program. That'll take us on to our very first break here on News Central. We'll return with a bit more stories for you. Please do stay.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
An upgrade is nice, but a double upgrade is amazing.
Welcome back to News Central. Now, the Ghana Health Service has commenced the cholera vaccination exercise targeting 300,000 people aged 1 year and above in the Greater Accra region. The exercise, which runs from today to Monday, February 17, is being conducted in 3 sub-metros, namely Ablekuma South, Okaikwe South, and the Asheidu Keteke sub-metros. The exercise aims to complement efforts to control and contain the ongoing cholera outbreak, which has seen over 6,000 suspected cases recorded nationwide, with more than 500 of such confirmed. The Greater Accra region remains one of the hardest hit areas, accounting for over 200 cases. Currently, vaccination teams are on the ground in the Ablekuma South district, administering doses to residents. My colleague Deborah Abba Mensah, she's joining us right now with details with respect to exactly what's happening. Deborah, how's the exercise been thus far in the 3 sub-metros following the launch this morning?
Hello, Mona. So the exercise is going on very steadily. We followed some of the health officials through the communities where they have reported that the sensitization is ongoing. We are currently at the Mampobi Polyclinic, where the Health Minister, Mr. Kando, was there to do the launch. They now have moved to other communities to continue with the exercise.
Right. Quickly talk to us about what other plans the Health Minister has been offering with respect to dealing with the poor water quality and sanitation in the affected areas. We know it might not directly fall in his purview, but has he said anything in relation to that?
So the minister spoke about collaborating with other sectors and other ministries that, like the sanitation ministry, to help in curbing the situation. He also urged the community to comply with the health, the plans that the health ministry have put in place to help in solving this situation.
Finally, on the residents' reaction to the ongoing vaccination, are parents bringing the awards to the various teams and ensuring that they get vaccinated? What's the reception been like?
So in the communities that we visited, they have really welcomed the vaccination. They were even calling the health officials that were moving around to come to their houses so that they can take the vaccination. They raised concerns about the sanitation problems in the communities. They said for some past years now, they have been spending their money in cleaning the gutters and also taking care of the refuse and all that. And they are urging governments to come through and help them out to solving this problem. They also complain about the water situation. Most of them said water that comes from the tap is really dirty, and they suggest it's also part of the spread in the cholera.
Right then, Deborah, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague Deborah Abba Mensah speaking to me from the Mampobi area where vaccination is ongoing. Let's listen to the health minister briefly when he launched the vaccination exercise. And sincere apologies, the quality of the sound, not the very best. But from the Greater Accra region where we're launching vaccination exercise to deal with cholera, let's take you to the Bono East, because Regional Minister Francis Owusu-Entry, he's pledged to implement measures to prevent future fire recurrence at the Techiman Central Market. He assured traders that a permanent fire tender will be stationed to enhance swift responses to fire incidents.
The Techiman Central Market was gutted by fire twice in the span of a month, destroying wooden and container shops along with their contents. The regional fire station lacked the necessary logistics to fight the inferno, although the firefighters swiftly responded to the disaster. On Wednesday, February 12th, Borno East Regional Minister Francis Owusu-Entry visited the scene to gather first-hand information.
We are going to do our best. One of their requests that came has to do with the number of fire hydrants, and I'm going to sit with the respective department to make sure we increase the fire hydrants so that water could be available to help the situation. We also assured them that they should be careful of fires. We know the extent fire can bring a disaster. It can take away your capital, it can take away your properties. But in this particular instance, we didn't record any casualty. That is the most important aspect. So we thank God that we didn't record any casualty. So what I can say is that we are aware of the situation. We will go back to our table to come out with a realistic approach that will help us minimize any market fire disaster.
The minister also reiterated his commitment to developing the region.
I know that Borno East, we have so many tourist areas. We have very fertile lands for arable crops production. I'm going to make sure to collaborate with the appropriate leadership to make sure the tourism potential in the region is maximized. I will make sure the agricultural setup in the region, the value chain approach concept is going to be enhanced to bring better productivity into the region.
Regional Fire Commander ACFO2 Naomi Dubia cautioned traders to avoid activities that could make the market prone to fire outbreaks.
The errors of people that cause the various fires that we've encountered. And we advise the public to be more cautious about fire safety measures so that there wouldn't be any fire at all for us to come and extinguish them. In fact, the measures we are taking, Minister has said a lot about them. That we've intensified the patrol duties. We come in the morning at 6 o'clock and close in the evening. The other appliance takes over from 6 p.m. to the following morning. So, and the fire education too is ongoing. If you listen to the various centers, you will hear us preaching fire safety wherever to make sure that there wouldn't be any fire outbreaks again.
Some affected traders lauded the regional minister proposed intervention, but requested support to help them bounce back to business. We are grateful for your concern, but what happened now has happened 5 years ago. So we are just pleading that in as much as we are grateful, we are pleading with you to put in proper measures to help us bounce back on our feet. We are grateful, but we will plead that as soon as possible, you should put in place measures to rebuild new structures for us so we can start our businesses again.
We know that recent fire incident in parts of the country and its associated destruction of lives and livelihoods is of concern to many. The National House of Chiefs, they've added their voice to calls for enforcement and compliance of fire safety regulations to minimize avoidable fire outbreaks.
2025 did not begin too well for many traders in Kantamanto, Techimai Market, and Kwadasuwood Market, among other markets. A devastating fire swept through these markets, destroying the livelihood of the affected traders. Several domestic fires have also been recorded beginning of this year, with the latest claiming the life of a nurse and her 3 children at Jinyasi in Kumasi. The unending fire outbreaks have caused public apprehension. The National House of Chiefs appears worried, calling for intensified public education on fire safety measures.
The incidence of domestic and industrial market fires is worrisome, and as chiefs at community level leadership, let's continue to educate our community members in fire prevention practices.
At its first meeting in 2025, the House of Chiefs also pledged its support to government in the fight against galamsey.
We as chiefs have been deeply concerned with the meanings of galamsey and will welcome and cooperate with the government strategy and efforts in combating the menace. Galamsey has grown in scale and has become a very complex phenomenon, and any attempt at addressing it must be well thought of and effective. The dynamics of galamsey include youth unemployment, national security, and environmental degradation. However, galamsey has become unsustainable and can undermine our existence as a nation if not dealt with.
We're going to move away from fires and talk about galamsey now, because gender activism managing consultant at ALC Law Consult Sheila Mina Premos condemned the attack on the daughter of Ghana's former president Jerry John Rawlings. This comes a little over a week after Dr. Zanetta Rawlings was called by an unidentified MP during a parliamentary session as daughter of a murderer. In an interview with 3FM, Sheila Minka Premo asked that MPs do to women as they would to men.
It is inappropriate for anybody to try to do that. You know, one of the things that usually happens to women who are into leadership or who are aspiring to leadership is insults that sometimes discourages them. So the law itself has a provision which indicates that you should not make people targets of insults. Of course, it will be the law itself looks at gender-related insults, but then other things you will not do to a man in Parliament, you should also not do it to the woman.
Do you think Parliament
is unacceptable?
It's unacceptable. Do you think Parliament has been forthcoming, identifying the individual who did that and bringing the person to book?
Well, in trying to track it, I'm not sure how far Parliament has done work on it. I am hoping that the honourable member involved has lodged a complaint with the appropriate body in Parliament, and I'm hoping that investigations will be undertaken to locate the person.
What would you
and to tell the person that this is unacceptable.
What would you say to people who say that if Parliament really wanted us to know this person, they would have fished out the person? Perhaps Parliament is protecting this individual because of the male dominance of our system.
Well, from the little I know of Parliament, I know if you have a complaint, the media courts onto it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Parliament should act on it. The person who is affected will have to lodge a complaint, and then possibly the Privileges Committee may, if they identify the person, take action. So I am hoping that the honourable member involved has actually lodged the complaints, because just hearing the news item alone, I believe, is not enough for Parliament. We are thankful to the media to also throwing light on the affirmative action gender equity law. I think that we all need to do the monitoring. Yes, GEC will be the main body which will be doing it, but we on the outside, as stakeholders, are also going to do constant monitoring to see that within the public sector there's compliance.
Let's talk love now, because love is often celebrated with grand gestures, flowers, chocolates, and fancy dinners. But for some, love is about sacrifice and proving the world wrong. On this Valentine's Day, my colleague Gordon Asidiba tells a story of a couple whose love has stood the test of time, defying stereotypes and challenges. A love that proves true commitment knows no limits.
Joya mameno, say yes, ewu asan kwa ba biom bio na se otiasia na nkono a na mefano.
It's Valentine's Day, a day to celebrate love in all its forms. But for some, love has been tested in ways many cannot imagine. This is the story of a couple whose love has defied all odds. Meet Anthony Kwame Adakwa, 49, and Mavis Adakwa, 43. They have been married for 13 years and share a bond that has withstood life challenges. Both Anthony and Mavis lost mobility in their legs due to polio. Anthony at the age of 2 and Mavis at 6.
Talking about love issues, mostly I hide myself out of it. But since we came together with the collaboration we've agreed to also approach some of our colleagues who are also in the timid side to become an active. Yes, to have the confidence to, because you see, in our country, most persons with disabilities are being all the time cheated by some of our able-bodied gentlemen.
Despite the stereotypes and challenges they face as persons living with disabilities, they have built a strong, loving family, raising 4 children together. According to the couple, their journey has not been easy. Society often looked at them with pity, questioning how they could raise a family. Jobs were scarce and accessibility was a daily battle, but they found strength in each other and their love shielded them from the doubts of people.
When people started seeing us going out, they were gossiping, but I can say that there is none of them who were able to approach me to tell me that, why do you have to?
Their love has created a home full of warmth and laughter, proving that love thrives in the face of adversity.
And Valentine, make a chance say, you don't be brave.
To make this day special, Anthony had planned to take Mavis out on Valentine's Day. But, unknown to them, I had already shared their love story with Chocolate Mall, and they decided to make this Valentine's Day even more memorable.
Hi, how are you? You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
So we put this beautiful chocolate together. You can see it's a customized chocolate for this beautiful couple. It gives us so much delight. So we're thrilled when Godwin called us to do this. Happy Valentine's Day to this beautiful couple.
Right, so we are in the house to surprise them with some chocolate. This is a special chocolate made for you and your wife, and it is just to encourage you to continue to thrive and also get to know that love is beautiful.
Beyond Anthony and Mavis, there are many others whose love stories remain untold. Stories of strength, sacrifice, and unbreakable bonds. On the streets of Accra, I met 58-year-old Ebenezer Note, another man who believes in love despite his struggles. As a person living with a disability, life has not been easy. He and his wife have 3 children, but tragically, they lost 2. Despite this heartbreak, he remains hopeful, working tirelessly to earn enough to take his wife out today.
My wife, fine. I got my tomo cake, hello, my ice school, hello, my local. You can't enjoy a show. Then we see you going to enjoy all the fine. I got Valentine Day. Jay, no, I don't mind my car. You get it, I go. My wife, me banner, when Valentine Day in your car, get you.
I hand Ebenezer a chocolate bar, a small gift, but one filled with meaning for his wife. A reminder that love, in all its forms, deserves to be celebrated. Love exists. It is not defined by circumstances, ability, or struggles. It belongs to everyone. And today, we celebrate love that endures.
Love knows no boundaries, not ability, not perception, not even societal stereotypes. Anthony and Mavis' story is proof that love is about commitment and the ability to stand by each other through life's toughest challenges. As they celebrate their journey, we are reminded that love in its purest form is not about what you lack, but about what you share. And sometimes the sweetest gestures, like a simple bar of chocolate like this, carry the biggest messages of love and appreciation. And you can see them right there, enjoying the chocolates with their family, which is all that matters. My name is Godwin Asidiba, reporting for TV3.
What a beautiful love story. One that should inspire all of you watching at home today, even as you go out there and show love in all of its form and be kind. That's our bulletin for you today. I am Mawina Igbeta. You want to stick and stay with us here on TV3 because on Valentine's, we have a special show for you. Do stay tuned in.
Let's not reduce this day to showing love to those that can show us love back. Let's think of those who don't have the ability, who don't have the means to show us